Marriage Story is an emotional roller coaster of a film about falling in and out of love. Noah Baumbach, the writer and director of Marriage Story, has gone on record stating that the film is deeply personal, but it's personal in that it's a culmination of many people's stories, experiences, and emotions. Thank God it's not autobiographical, because the explosive argument between the leads Charlie and Nicole is so devastating and hurtful that it would be completely unbearable knowing that Baumbach actually acted that way in a real-life argument. But what makes the fight between Nicole and Charlie so ugly? And why did the conflict escalate so quickly? Let's analyze all the variables that determine a healthy or unhealthy conflict. I'm Jonathan Hetterly, a licensed professional counselor trained in marriage and family therapy, and this is Marriage Story, Anatomy of an Argument. Before we dive into Marriage Story, let's first look at a checklist of healthy and assertive communication skills. You want to be specific. It helps to stick close to the present and talk about one thing at a time. Use I statements. Give frequent feedback and respond to spoken and unspoken words and messages. Finally, validate the other person's point of view. Now let's look at a checklist of common pitfalls that escalate conflict. Mind reading, name calling, interrupting the other person, long speeches, using you statements, blanket criticisms, hyperbole and exaggeration, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. We're going to keep track of many of these characteristics throughout the analysis and review the checklist at the end of this scene. The first disagreement comes when Charlie asks Nicole if they can switch dates that they have Henry.
I guess
I'm going to have to leave a day early to go to New York on the 22nd, so I was wondering if I could take Henry that Friday.
The 22nd, so that's the 21st? We have plans, actually. We're going to something at Lackmo with the cousins.
Could you change it so I could take him?
It's just one night. He's looking forward to it. It's my night, Charlie. We negotiated it.
Okay, fine.
What?
No, I'm just asking you to be flexible.
I am flexible. You come in and out, and I adjust based on your schedule. This one night, we happen to have tickets
Not
to a
only
thing.
this one night, but fine.
So let's pause here and evaluate this first confrontation. Overall, they did quite well. Nicole and Charlie were both direct and assertive in their communication. Charlie made a request and Nicole declined. Nicole had every right to decline, but she also had a valid reason. Charlie's one misstep was suggesting that Nicole was being inflexible, in a manner that could be labeled passive-aggressive. But Nicole held her ground and Charlie dropped it. Now, let's point out that Charlie is disappointed, but this is a successful conflict. Healthy conflict does not guarantee a happy outcome for all involved. A successful conflict is when respect is upheld by both parties, communication is direct and clear, and those involved are able to both listen and speak. If only they had stopped there. Why not end a conversation on a positive note? Oh well, I guess let's continue. Then Charlie and Nicole go on to talk about the toll that this custody situation is having on them financially, emotionally, and its impact on Henry.
Nora says that the evaluator will come into our homes. They're going to interview Henry in addition to us, our friends, family, enemies, and then they'll observe us with him, how we are as parents.
Sounds awful.
I know. I feel like if anybody observed me on any given day as a mom, I'd never get custody. That was a joke.
I know. I feel the same way.
Right. So maybe we can figure something out between us.
You'll remember I said this to you at the beginning.
I know you did, but these are different circumstances.
I was anticipating these circumstances.
Anyway, shall we try this?
Okay.
Charlie makes a point to remind Nicole that he predicted this exact thing. Nicole tries to deflect, claiming these are different circumstances. This is a small moment, but in the build-up to a great blow-up, a bunch of small missteps can set you back. So what's Nicole's misstep? Well, she's a little defensive here, because Charlie was right. Charlie predicted this exact thing, and now both of them are lamenting that things got out of hand. It's costing them a copious amount of money, and Henry is starting to get pulled into the fray. What could have Nicole done in this moment? She could have acknowledged she was wrong. She could have acknowledged she didn't listen or believe Charlie. Throughout the film, it is clear that Charlie doesn't listen. Now here is an instance where Nicole doesn't listen to him. They are both responsible for getting Henry dragged into the mess. Nicole could have said she was sorry. It might have softened the tone of the conversation. It might have lowered the temperature in the room. Now, this doesn't absolve Charlie. Despite what I just said about Nicole, Charlie's misstep here is that he's focused more on being right than resolving the situation or reconciling with Nicole. When in conflict, being right is rarely a noble or helpful aspiration. So Nicole asks, "Do you understand why I want to stay in LA?" To which Charlie answers, "No." Nicole chides him, saying, "Well, that's not a useful way for us to start."
Do you understand why I want to stay in LA?
No.
Well, Charlie, that's not a useful way for us to start.
I don't understand it. Come on, you were happy. You've just decided you weren't now.
Okay. My work is here now. My family is here.
And I agreed to put Henry in school here because your show went to series. I did that knowing that when you were done shooting, he would come back to New York.
Honey, we never said that. That may have been your assumption, but we never expressly said that.
We did say it.
When did we say it?
I don't know when we said it, but we said it.
It's already clear that Charlie and Nicole are not good communicators, at least not with each other at this point. Nicole asks him if he understands why she wants to stay in LA, and Charlie is honest that he doesn't understand. Nicole chides him, saying his answer is not a useful way for them to start. But Charlie is being honest, and Nicole is missing that warning sign that despite what they have said or thought in the past, there's a lot of confusion, assumptions, and miscommunication between them. This whole section is about them challenging what the other person said, implied, or meant in past conversations. They are getting nowhere because they are challenging the other person's perspective, defending themselves of saying things in the past, while missing the larger picture that they continue to have poor communication. They both start to use the word "you" more heavily here. They are starting to speak for the other person or shift to an accusatory tone. They are both guilty of escalating the conversation. Now, eventually, Nicole yells, "You put me through hell during the marriage, and now you're going to put Henry through this horrible thing so you can yet again get what you want."
You put me through hell during our marriage.
Oh, is that what that was? Hell?
And now you're going to put Henry through this horrible thing so you can yet again get what you want.
It's not what I want. I mean, it's what I want, but it's what was what's best for him.
Oh, well, I was wondering when you get around to Henry and what he actually wants.
F off.
No, you f off. If you listen to your son or anyone, they tell you that he'd rather live here.
Stop putting your feelings about me onto Henry.
He tells me he likes it better here.
He tells you because he knows it's what you want to hear.
He tells me you're on the phone all the time. You don't even play with him.
Okay, so this is the point that things really start to go off the rails. Why do I say that? Because the very thing they are talking about in this moment, about not putting Henry in the middle of their divorce, they are essentially doing in their argument. They are both guilty of putting Henry in the middle. Nicole accuses Charlie of putting Henry through this horrible thing. Nicole is just as complicit in this as Charlie. She struggles to take responsibility for herself and her actions. She's so busy accusing Charlie here of putting Henry through this horrible thing so he can get again what he wants that she doesn't realize she is weaponizing Henry here. And Charlie takes the bait. He blows up and tells Nicole to f off, which eggs her to tell him back to f off. This is the point of no return. At this point in the argument, they are now both guided by escalated emotions. They have lost the balance between their logical brain and their emotional brain. They are ugly, they are hurt, and they are hurtful. Rarely does anything positive occur in an argument after the couple have crossed over to name-calling, yelling, and swearing at each other. They've lost composure. They no longer can remember why they started this conversation. This is where Charlie and Nicole should just walk away. In the fight, go to their corners. There is nothing they're going to say or do that can make things better. But we can always make things worse, and we're about to see how they can make things worse. Nicole shouts at Charlie, "You're being so much like your father."
You're being so much like your father.
Do not compare me to my father.
I didn't compare you to him. I said you were acting like him.
You're exactly like your mother. Everything you're complaining about her, you're doing. You're suffocating Henry.
First of all, I love my mother. She was a wonderful mother.
Just repeating what you told me.
Secondly, how dare you compare my mothering to my mother? I may be like my father, but I am not like my mother.
You are! And you're like my father. You're also like my mother. You're all the bad things about all of these people. But mostly your mother. When we would lie in bed together, sometimes I would look at you and see her and just feel so gross.
I felt repulsed when you touched me.
You're a slob. I made all the beds, clothes on the cabinets, took care of you like an
makes me want
infant.
to peel my skin off.
Welcome to the stage of contempt, where people are viciously mean. Charlie and Nicole are being mean and ugly to one another. They are treating each other with disrespect. They're mocking one another with sarcasm and ridicule. They are essentially calling each other names. The point of contempt is to make the other person feel despised and worthless. Now, contempt is different than criticism. Criticism focuses on what the person does. It points to actions and choices. Contempt is where a person attacks your core character and the essence of who you are. Contempt assumes a position of moral superiority over the other person. There's no point in going quote by quote all of the contemptuous words that Charlie and Nicole say. They denigrate each other's parents. They compare the other person to the ugliness of someone else. They accuse the other person of being repulsive, gross to look at, touch, or have sex with. Now, Charlie is especially going off the rails here. He's mostly speaking in second person, you. He's attacking Nicole with a relentless barrage of you this, you that, you never, you always. He says, you're a slob, you'll never be happy, you've regressed, you're a hack. You blamed me, you always made me aware of what I was doing wrong, how I was falling short. Now, John Gottman, the renowned and respected marriage expert, found that contempt is the single greatest predictor of divorce. Well, to quote the great comedian John Mulaney, we're way past that. But the level of contempt Charlie and Nicole have for one another clearly shows how broken their relationship is at this point. Charlie shouts, life with you was joyless. If I could guarantee Henry would be okay, I'd hope you get an illness and then get hit by a car and die.
Life with you was joyless.
So then you had to go with someone
You
else?
shouldn't be upset that I f***ed her. You should be upset that I had a laugh with her.
Do you love her?
No. But she didn't hate me. You hated me.
You hated me. You somebody we worked with.
You stopped having sex with me in the last year. I never cheated on you.
That was cheating on me.
But there's so much I could have done. I was a director in my 20s who came from nothing and was suddenly on the cover of Time Out New York. I was hot shit and I wanted to fuck everybody and I didn't. And I loved you and I didn't want to lose you. But I'm in my 20s and I didn't want to lose that too and I kind of did. And you wanted so much, so fast. I didn't even want to get married. Fuck it. There's so much I didn't do. Every day I wake up and I hope you're dead. Dead like if I could guarantee Henry would be okay. I'd hope you get an illness and then get hit by a car and die.
Hi, my name is Charlie, and I've lost my mind. It was bound to happen to one of them. One of them was going to crack. And it was Charlie. Well, sure, yeah, it's easy to say it was him because he punched a wall and claimed that he wishes every day that Nicole would die, and not just die, but die a painful and horrific way. That's the culmination, the apex of Charlie going off the rails and losing all self-control and composure. But no, the first sign that Nicole is now talking to an irrational and erratic person is the breakdown of Charlie's logic and defense. He deflects responsibility for his infidelity. He challenges Nicole that she should be more upset that he was having fun with somebody else. And he actually claims at one point that he never cheated on her. Wow, that should be a warning sign that the person you're talking with is completely detached from what he's thinking and saying. But then, when Nicole calls him out on his bullshit, he minimizes or defends his adulterous acts by highlighting how much more he could have done but did not do. It's a weird defense where he shifts the focus on how much Nicole held him back and how much credit Charlie really should be given for all the acts and choices he didn't make. And then, of course, we see the complete meltdown that Charlie has where all the resentment, hate, hurt, and vitriol comes spilling out as he assaults Nicole with his own pain. The only point of all of this is for her to hurt, to be hurt, and to know how much he would delight in her pain and death. Charlie's crumbling to the ground after he says so many awful things, and Nicole coming to his aid and offering comfort and soothing only highlights the degree that the argument spiraled out of control. The end of the fight is who these people really are. They don't hate each other. They desperately care about the other person, which is why the hurt they've endured at the hands of each other is so painful. No one can hurt you more than the ones you love the most. Well, wasn't that fun, dissecting the argument scene? Talk about the feel-good movie of the year. Now let's revisit the checklist of healthy and assertive communication skills and see how they did. Be specific, stick close to the present, talk about one thing, use I statements, validate the other person. Well, it's safe to say they epically failed in all of those healthy communication skills. So then let's look at the checklist of common pitfalls that escalate conflict. Mind reading, name calling, interrupting, long speeches, using you statements, blanket criticisms, contempt, Well, I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say that Charlie and Nicole failed at every one of these traits with the exception of stonewalling, which is too bad because maybe it would have been better if one of them had just closed themselves off before it escalated to such a vitriolic level. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please be sure to subscribe and share our content, and you're always welcome to leave a comment or recommendation of a character, scene, or film you'd like for us to analyze here on Shrink Tank. Until next time, I'm Jonathan Hetterly. Thanks for watching and sharing in our love of film and analysis.